And welcome back to the Splitting Hares podcast presented by Jackrabbit Illustrated. Matt and Kyle here. Kyle, how are you tonight?
Doing good, man. I had a little Friendsgiving get together yesterday. Stomach's full, spirits are high. Jack's got a W, so we're back on the good side of the ledger.
You cut out for a second. Did you say your stomach was full of spirits? No, sorry.
Spirit and spirits, yes. Oh yeah, that's a good one. I like it. I like it.
Funny. All right. We are presented by Cottonwood Coffee of Brookings and Drake's Place of Bowdle, South Dakota. Stopped at Cottonwood yesterday, grabbed a cup of coffee before I went to tailgating. It's the perfect way to start out there. Get some caffeine in your system for those early morning tailgates. And then mix or flip over to, some hot apple pie that Tim Goldhammer brought. He's the guy that does our What's Cooking Wednesday. So Chef Tim, thanks, buddy. Good apple pie. And then Drake's Place, I think I mentioned this last week, but this is worth raving about. Their Club 71 sandwich. Oh, so good.
Did you get any at the tailgate for the marker game?
Yeah, that's where I had it. Yeah,
man, they were so good, man.
So if that is just a sample of what they make there, like I need to find a reason to get to Bowdle, and maybe that's just going to be it. Just going to see Drake's. So
I mean, Lauren and I looked at each other like, I think these are the Club 71 sandwiches because we just passed Robert when he was dropping them off at the tailgating. Oh man, you guys gotta. I'm not even overselling them. I'm not biased with food. But you could specifically tell how well crafted they are. They're good.
Yeah. All right. So thanks everyone for being here tonight. We have a big show planned. we have to go through UND. That was an exciting victory. Lots to talk about there. We have to do game balls. We have to talk about the playoff bracket, and then we are going to talk about UC Davis, our old Great West foe, UC Davis. And maybe Kyle will have some good stories about UC Davis, some good memories. So we'll jump right in. Let's do this. So the UND recap, the Jacks won 24-21. Very physical game, very tough game, both sides of the ball. Really, both quarterbacks. I was impressed with both quarterbacks overall. Tommy Schuster, you watch him and you look at him, and it's like, what is this guy? Like, how is Tommy Schuster doing this? But he just keeps making plays. I'm a Tommy Schuster fan. I like Tommy Schuster. But luckily yesterday, our quarterback was just a bit better. So, Kyle, what are your thoughts? I know you rewatched it today.
Yeah. First of all, it's great to get a win. I think people may take for granted at the national level how difficult the Valley is because, there's Valley bias, right? But I think that overall, there's no easy day in the Valley. So getting a win against, a former regional foe at the D2 level, last time we played them in Brookings was 2010, my senior year, and we shut them out. And it's always great to get a big time victory that catapults you to playoffs. And I think, you mentioned some great points. Schuster was really, really difficult to tie down and get off his spots. And we put together an admirable pass rush. Cade Trevere did an excellent job, had a great day yesterday. And, also looking at, Caleb Sanders, the pressure he was able to put on. But it still was as if he just had all the juice and all the magic in his hat. Just being poised, extending the plays, finding these little dunking opportunities to move the sticks on third downs. And it's just like, not again, right? You're hoping that guys shore up these little aspects, heading into the UC Davis game, which I'm highly confident they will.
Yeah. All right. Everyone's jumping right in right away. Still fired up about the refs. Hey, Terry, thanks for being here, man. Steve, I like Steve Anderson because he is always just like, he tells you what's on his mind. So Steve Anderson started first comment out of the gate. That was a TD. Absolutely, Steve. And I think we all know it. But unfortunately, there was just no angle that absolutely proved it beyond a reasonable doubt. Like, I think anyone that watches that replay of the angle that was shown knows it. But again, they can't prove it.
And not even that though, Matt. Like, sorry to interject there. Just
you're good.
It's the responsibility of the officials on the line, gauging the line of scrimmage, to, as soon as the play is snapped and it's about to be dead, converge towards the scrum. Right? Converge towards the scrum. Sift through the scrum. Be assertive in your calling of whether it's a good touchdown or not. And let the crowd know, let everyone know. The lack of assertiveness from that crew was abysmal. And I'm not trying to pile on the refs, because it's been bad across the board this year, not only in the Valley, but nationally at the National Football League level and all over, man. It's just been atrocious. And it's like, it's almost like the officials and the governing bodies are like siding with the officials as opposed to allowing the game to go on unimpeded, right? We're seeing bogus flags for taunting where it's getting to be ridiculous. The enforcement of it is wrong. And it's just common sense football. Did your eyes watch it cross the plane? None of this overly reliant on technology. Get the damn call right on the field. So that's my rant. I'm done with that one. That's my big rant.
Yeah. You got everyone fired up here in the comments, right. Kyle. I'm not sure if you're seeing this, but they are just flying in. So,
that's right, Darren.
Yeah, right, Dion. Let's talk about this, because this is unbelievable. Met Dion yesterday. Dion Blumenrader. Had a lot of fun chatting with him. Dion, thanks for the conversation. It was nice to meet you. Third down conversion rate was unbelievable. Yes, it was. Kyle, have you ever seen anything like that for what you and UND did there on third down? How successful they were, short or long?
So they're tailor-made for that, though. They dink and dunk. And what do we do on third downs notoriously? What do we do, Matt?
Man-to-man.
Send pressure. It's like
send pressure, yes.
Oh, they're going to send pressure. You want to know why I know they're sending pressure? Because they mistime their blitzes. So it's like,
and usually it's pressure right up the middle, usually too. Nothing off the edge.
A-gap pressure, or or if it is, when it is off the edge, it's usually Backus, and he times it up really well. I wasn't opposed to them sending pressure. I do think when you're not getting a great, consistent interior pass rush, you're going to try to send some pressure, right? The problem is, or maybe you're trying to shield some blemishes on the back end, which could be as well, right? So our coverage issues have been there, but I think more so from a tackling perspective. We were not tackling well. A couple times Schuster was just, extending the play, running up the middle, turning around with his back and falling forward, a reverse pivot. And then what you're starting to see is who is coming in the game? Vaughn, right? And they're running quarterback in those situations. And when you're in 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, and you are built for that situation, and you practice, repetitively QB sneak in those situations, advantage bad guys. So like you said, Ken, we're going to, who was that had that point up there? Dion, we're going to have to shore that up. I'm highly confident we will, moving into the playoffs.
Yeah. What was the exact statistic on this? It was just nuts. So UND was 13 of 19 on third down, and then 2 of 2 on fourth down.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, some of it, Ken, is just a good play calling by their offense. Like they're a good offense with respect to just playing within their skill set and their scheme. They have a ton of different things they throw at you, different motions. You would notice the orbit motion a lot of times. There was the one play when number 4, his name escapes me right now, is it Boltman?
Brock Boltman.
Yeah, Boltman. They ran that one play where, it's kind of like what we do with Pierre. And we'll have Chris flanking him as a potential pitch guy, but really that's just window dressing. Well, there they utilize Weah in a sound way to be a lead blocker, right? And so they're just really creative. You're gonna have to tip your cap some to Valley competition. I know everybody on here has a high expectation for the Jacks, but the Valley plays some damn good football, and it's really going to prep us for a nice playoff run here. And I think we should all be licking our chops, because we can get better. Like Stig says, can we play better? Yes. Will we play better? That's up to them. How prepared are the guys going to be? Are we going to tackle? My big thing, Matt, and everyone who asked questions about the third down conversion rate, we rally tackled well, but when our first guy is getting there, they need to grab flesh. Coach Sig, the most he says is grab their flesh, tear at their flesh.
Yep.
Because he's not the most violent guy at all, but he couldn't be more correct on that. You gotta grab cloth.
Yep. Yeah. And a couple of times in that first half, Isaiah Stallbird had two beautiful form tackles.
And then
there was a totally separate play where he ran right by the receiver, like overran the play and allowed a first down. And just some of that is, we know they can do it, right? We know they can make tackles. They can make good form tackles. They can be in position, rally tackle. But then there's just these lapses that really are mind-boggling. And a lot of it, I think you're right, Kyle, is competition in a lot of ways. So,
no, I'm glad you brought that up about Stallbird, because I saw that. I was seeing that too, and I was like, man, I wonder if anyone else is seeing how great he's tackling on these plays. Yeah. And then a couple of these other plays, it's like, dang, keep your head up, run your feet. And I know it's not that easy. Like, you can say that until you're blue in the face, but it doesn't always pan out that way. I do want to get a quick rave in here, Matt, if I can.
Yeah.
And I kind of touched on already. Cade Tervier and the Colonel, unbelievable effort, man. The Colonel, Sanders, he overran one of his sacks. Kept running, came back, and got an effort sack. I mean, that's beautiful. You want to know why that's beautiful? You're setting the tone for the rest of your teammates. And when you do that, you give everyone the juice. And that's not even talking about who we had back in the lineup on the offensive side of the ball, which I know gave the guys juice. So,
hey, we finally
hats off to those guys.
Yeah. Didn't you were the one that wanted Sanders to get that 6-piece, right?
Yeah.
On his sack. So he's at to 6.5 now. So there we go. So this is a great segue. So thanks, Terry, for saying this. Davis made a difference. How cool was that to see him, his first carry, a 22-yard, quick hit, just unbelievable, that burst. And it became so apparent as the game went along why Davis and Pierre are the perfect complement for one another on that. I mean, it just their styles couldn't be more different. And you could just see the defense. They got used to Pierre's style. Isaiah would come in and just go, and they were, a half step slow. And by then he's through the hole. So it's great to have him back. That's for darn sure.
Absolutely, man. And the cool thing about that is Pierre got to showcase a little bit more versatility, even because when you have Isaiah being such a change of pace, Pierre caught his one pass that he caught for 6 yards. The move that he put on that corner DB linebacker, I mean, his jock strap is still on the opposing sidelines. I mean, he left his ankles broken and he was hurt and bleeding. Someone needs to call the ambulance because it was so bad. But yeah, things like that are just going to continue to open up the playbook for the offense as a whole. When you look at the statistics too, I mean, Chris was able to distribute the ball to so many different people. Pierre didn't have over 100 yards rushing, but he didn't need to necessarily, right? Because Isaiah had 60 plus yards. And if you look at our yard per carry average, it was so high, everybody that touched the rock, that's the type of balance that's only going to give Coach Eck so many different tools at his disposal to put pressure on these opposing defenses.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of my raves today as well, was just the number of weapons and how they showed up yesterday. Obviously Tucker's catch and run for the touchdown at the end of the first half was the highlight, and that showcased everything that is special about Tucker right now. But I mean, the Yankees, Jaden on that first touchdown reception, like, that was incredible speed.
Yeah.
I don't know how he scored on that, or if just, because UND, like we've already said, UND is a very good team. Steve Anderson said a few things go their way in some of those close games, they would be in the playoffs. Absolutely. And we should have had 31 points. We've already said that with Chris's touchdown. But it just, Jackson, again, a very quiet 100-yard game again. The other Sauce brother, Hines, his receptions, two key first downs.
Huge.
So
yeah.
I mean, there's just so many weapons for this offense that, again, once once Isaiah's back, that frees up Pierre to maybe do a few more things in the passing game. We know Isaiah can make plays in the passing game. This offense is truly dynamic with all of its weapons out there.
Yeah, and I hope what we do is lean on the run game first and let everything else be an offshoot of that.
Yep.
Because if you look, when you have a ton of weapons, sometimes you can overthink the process. I would imagine. I'm just guessing here. I've coached high school, but I've never had that many weapons, even in high school, right? That the Jacks have currently on the roster, and in the two deep. And so when you're looking at, sometimes you can be like, well, I got to get this guy involved in some way when you're doing your game prep, right? So I think the best, most conservative thing to do is to protect the ball and maintain time of possession. How are you going to do that? Let Pierre try to get off first, right? Lean on PS2. I love the nickname. Lean on Pierre, and then that change of pace with Isaiah, it wears down a defense. If you'll notice, his center of gravity and his balance is so good. Even when people are rally tackling him, he doesn't even go down half the time. He'll get 3 yards and they won't be able to knock him off his feet. And that just demoralizes mentally those defensive units.
Yeah, this Oladokin commanded the offense very well yesterday. Agreed. He's had a good year, but this is the best he's looked, I'd argue, since Colorado State, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. Confident, consistent, decisive. And I got to tell you this, probably his best throw all year, except for a couple beauties he dropped in the basket against Colorado State, was the back shoulder throw to Jackson on one of the last drives. Man, that was beautiful because really he threw him open and he just had good rapport with Jackson on that play. And that's something that develops over time. So as we're all, caught up in the moment sometimes when we want to shell out criticism, I think what Chris has started to do is really build that rapport. He's only been in bookings for 5 months. So keeping that all in context, I think, is important.
Yeah. One thing I want to hit on too, before we get too far along here is talking about the restructured offensive line. You never want to go into your last game of the season against a good, weird 7-man, or front seven that UND runs without your starting left tackle of the last 2 years. And what they did, is switched Garrett Greenfield over to left tackle and then put Bo Donald in at right tackle, rotated Jason Titus through a little bit. Gus Miller played a lot at right guard yesterday. So this was definitely kind of the future offensive line, fall 2022. Besides Gannant in the middle, that's who we're going to be looking at there. Donald had a rough opening series, but really settled down after that. Did you notice anything, Kyle, when you were watching our offensive line, kind of what they were doing?
Yeah, just getting caught leaning a couple times, which is going to happen when you're not too accustomed to getting a lot of real live game action. Another thing is there was a sack or two, or maybe a time when Chris got flushed where I believe it was Bo. He chased his man instead of working to pass it off. And I don't know what the communication was or how Eck wanted them to relay it. A lot of times you just go man when you're seeing an odd 3-4 defense that does a lot of stunts and twists in games. So for instance, if you guys noticed, I won't get too caught in the weeds here. I'll try to give you a visual. The stand-up backers on the edge, a lot of times they would loop over the D tackle, and the D tackle would have an outside rush lane. And what was happening sometimes is Bo got beat to the inside once, and you never want to give up pressure at all, but you really don't want it to come from the interior because then the quarterback can't step up in the pocket, right? And everybody's in his face. So just want to see him keep his eyes up, move his feet, communicate, and that'll happen more as you get real live reps.
Sure.
Didn't get to see a ton of Gus. It's probably a good thing because, sometimes when you don't see offensive linemen flash like that, then they're probably doing their job well enough for everything to get rolling, right? Yep. There were times we got a huge push and Pierre was on those stretch run plays, which is going to bode well because we're going to be talking a little bit here coming up that Cal Davis runs a 3-4 similar type defense. So that's going to be good.
Yeah. It sounds like I've gotten a lot of questions about Aaron Johnson. Sounds like week to week for him. Nothing major, but enough to exercise some caution, especially for this week. So Thanks for that, Terry, for noticing there.
Yeah, sorry, it's not supposed to be crude. It was the company I worked for. They loved Ron Burgundy's comment,
yeah.
wake up and piss excellence. And actually, it just means to stay hydrated too. That's it.
So this is a good question here from Jordan Fink. UND was a good team, no doubt, but still feel the team played a bit uninspired yesterday and at USD. Hopefully the way the bracket is set up will energize them. Scott kind of echoed that as well. And I commented on this as well. I think this is me. I think the team is tired. They played a lot of games this calendar year, trying not to make necessarily excuses for them. But it was a lower energy game. Absolutely. I think you could feel that in the stadium right away. The team didn't come out with, that hair on fire that we were all hoping to have. By the end of the game, they sure seemed excited, sure seemed relieved. Maybe it was a good word for it. But just trying to guess or gauge the energy level. Jordan and Dion, or Scott, you're both right. Like the energy was not there. I don't know if I'd call it uninspired. I'd go that far, but I'd call it tired. I think they're tired. So
I'll weigh in a little bit on this. I wasn't there, so I can't get a good barometer on what the actual emotional pulse was of the team. But just consider the last few weeks, right? So you're looking at NDSU, got to get up for it real big, right? And it literally was a must win at that time. I hate that statement, must win games, but it was from the perspective of you got to get at one or two of the last three to guarantee your spot in the playoffs. And we did that, right? But then you have a team down south that's not really our rival in our perspective, right? But we're very much their rival in their minds, right? So they're getting way up. We've had 2 single plays that have cost us 10-1 differential, right? Or a 9-2 differential, no matter how you slice it, or depending on how you slice it. So I think that can, just like you're saying, Matt, it can emotionally drain a team from having to get up, because the Valley is like no other. I mean, it really is like no other conference. Maybe the CAA, sometimes maybe the top tier of the Big Sky, which we're going to get to see actually the medal of that conference. And potentially CAA too, but they're more on the opposite side of the bracket. All that just to say it's emotionally taxing. And these are young kids. They're still going to class, right? So we need to keep that in mind. The only thing I'll say about this for the fans that may think uninspired ball is like potentially what they're seeing. They're juggling a lot, man. They're juggling a lot as young men, as players, as athletes. Think about the past 18 months in general for us, just lay people. We're not always juiced up. We're not always at 10. And, the mental conditioning coach is I think it's Crocked.
Chris Crocked. Yep.
Chris Crocked. He was saying that everybody's intensity level is going to be different based on the demands of their position, their role on the team, and then also what type of player they are, right? Like a Cole Fromm is going to be lower on the emotional scale and the excited scale as opposed to a Tucker Kraft. So, just keep that in context. You're not always going to see a juiced up guy on the sideline, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're not prepared and they're not ready to go. So,
Yeah. Switching gears just a little bit. Terry says, would have liked to see more people in the seats than were at the UND game. Absolutely. There was still 8,000, but it's tough. You look at some of the stuff that was going on. There's state volleyball being played out in Rapid, I believe. It was deer opener in South Dakota. They're still doing harvest in a lot of areas. And folks are getting nervous at this point that they're not going to get their corn out before we get too much snow. So that kind of does take priority for a lot of people. And I'm not, trying to make excuses, but these are real reasons that people have. It's the reality of their situation. So we still finished the year 14,100 plus on the average. When we Kyle, when you played and I was in the stands, we saw 14,000 maybe once, maybe twice in the 4 or 5 years that you played. And those games were fun because, around the scoreboard at the south end, you could just see it swelling, around there with people. The student section, the aisle was full. And every time you jumped around, you kind of thought that maybe the stadium might collapse under you there.
Yeah.
So we just have to put in context how this fan base is growing, and how it continues to grow. We're on a positive trajectory there. It just it's going to be frustrating, when we come off of our last home game was against NDSU with 18,000 fans, and now we had 10,000 less people there. I get it, but there's a lot going on, and in the big picture, we're still trending the right direction.
Yeah, so. And like you said, Matt, there's a lot of different obligations, and with such a small population in general, it's hard to pull. Like, you're trying to pull all of those to ensure a sold out crowd, and then people want to tailgate and have a good time, but if they're coming from Sioux Falls, it's like they got to really plan. They got a budget. People are spending money on their families and the transportation. So what I would like to see is Dana Dykhouse, Mr. Dana Dykhouse, please try to build like some transit rail system that goes back and forth from Brookings to Sioux Falls, so people can really make that push. No, I mean, that's a joke. He would be one who could do it. Maybe put in a call to his buddy Denny. But regardless of all that, I think, yeah, like you're saying, you're seeing an upward trend. I take it as a little personal jab. I think we had more than 14,000 when I played multiple times, but I think we did. I think times were different though, and I'm trying to split hairs here, Matt. I think times were different because there wasn't as much you could do. Now you got a smartphone and you can literally occupy an entire day with that, right? And there's so much more to do in Brookings, and that's a good thing, right? I'd love to see the administration increase enrollment in a time when people are not really going to college as much, which is tough. But I really would like to see them increase enrollment, because our students, we need to talk about the students, have showed up. And that's awesome, because they didn't always show up back when I played.
That's true. There were a lot of games where our two sections were less than half full. Kyle, I was there every week, so.
I know. I'll keep that one.
Man. I'm trying to think. So I had a funny story. And so this has nothing to do with this week's game, but you said the last time we played UND at home was when you played.
Yeah.
And so that was 2010. Yeah. And that's the year I think I graduated. It was the year I graduated. And Altel, you remember the cell phone provider that got bought out by AT&T, was like doing, do I have it behind me? No, I don't. Whatever it's at. Was doing like yellow foam finger giveaways.
Foam fingers, right?
Yeah. And so I went down to the bathroom at one of the breaks. It was a smaller crowd. It was a cold weather game. And they had this box still sitting there. So I drug in this box to the student section, carried it up to the top of the middle, the top of where the students were. So that's probably like the middle, and started making it rain foam fingers all over. And everyone walked away with a foam finger. It was great. And then that night, I believe Miranda Lambert was playing at the Swiftel Center. So I went to that.
Sweet.
So it's like the timeline of events that day.
Hey, have you heard if Joey Fatone is going to do another pillow fight in Brookings for this playoff game?
Thanks, Pink.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Joey Fatone, I know we need to break that record again, because someone else broke that pillow fight record somewhere. So
did they really? Unacceptable.
Oh yeah, it happened. I know.
For folks who don't know what we're talking about, the unpopular NSYNC guy, the quote unquote heavy set one. That's all we could afford. So I'm kidding. But maybe. I don't know. He came out and we broke the Guinness Book of World Records for the largest outdoor pillow fight. So
yeah. All right, let's wrap this up then. UND, we've gone so far. And what is this? The B team? Oh my goodness! Like squirrel. All right. They're gonna listen to that. Love you guys. Speaking of the B team, they had a sweatshirt made for me that says the Podfather on it, and I received that this week. It's a Podfather with me in the bow tie picture and like the Godfather print on the front. It's pretty sweet. So I appreciate that, guys. That's awesome. Very nice.
That's all, dude. That was Ben's idea. It was hilarious.
It's great. Yeah.
It's got a picture of Matt's head superimposed, and he's like doing the puppet master part of the Godfather logo. It's great.
I am not surprised that Chad hit Joey Fatone with a pillow. So, all right, game balls, jeepers. We are so far off the rails here.
Love it.
Presented by Jackrabbit Central. Thank you, Jackrabbit Central. I saw a lot of people wearing your bibs at the game to keep warm.
Awesome.
Some folks said they got hand warmers in the stadium shop, so that's a great addition for the people in the stadium. That if your hands were that cold or your toes got cold, so good job there. Appreciate all the gear that we get from you. So yeah. All right, my game balls. We've already talked about this a lot. Chris Oladokin was so good on offense. I think he has to have it. He just was in command.
Love that. Yeah, I'm gonna go with a defensive one just from my perspective. I'm gonna go with Cade Tervier. He's a guy who really stepped up and emerged. And anytime you get 2 sacks in a game and 2 really pivotal sacks, you got to go with the big chain gang guy.
Yeah, and then special teams, like Tyler Feldkamp's return was great, but I mean Cole Fromm had the great game-winning field goal. So Cole Fromm, good job, man. That was a big kick, big moment. The referees sure took their time to make that call, and the student section maybe didn't react how they normally do on made kicks. So good job. Excellent job, Cole.
Indeed. And it was going to the north end zone, right? So it was probably tough for them to see, or maybe it wasn't because it looked like it went right through the middle.
Oh man. Yeah. I don't like when I sit on the south 20 on the east side, 25 or so. And it was hard to tell. So
really,
yeah, from where I was at. Yeah. And the refs, again, they just took their sweet time calling it. It felt like
crazy.
All right. Okay. So playoffs. Oh man. This was, I don't know. The selection show probably couldn't have gone any better. NDSU got called North Dakota on the bracket. So that was wonderful. When it happens to us, it's not funny, but when it happens to NDSU, it's hilarious, I think. So any, general thoughts? Kyle, I'm going to let you talk while I get this pulled up here.
Yeah. So for anyone watching who just kind of doesn't really know that much or isn't that attuned with the whole national scene, we couldn't really have gotten a better draw, in my opinion, from the original way things shook out. Right? Didn't get a seed, but that's not all for naught, I guess you would say. As we're really looking at UC Davis, which we got to take them seriously. But barring anything unforeseen, if we play up to the level of our talent and not the level of our foe, I think if we get that done, then we'd roll into Sac State. Sac State, good team, got taken to the woodshed by UNI. We know how good UNI is as a program. I think if they're on the other side as well, got in at 6-5. The unique thing about that, though, is they beat them by 18 points. I want to say, or 34-7. They beat them bad. UNI beat Sac State bad. The travel is probably the biggest thing if we make a run, because we would have to go to Sac State if we take care of business against UC Davis. Cannot overlook UC Davis. They're a good football team. Could have wound up winning the Big Sky, have an FBS win under their belt. They beat Tulsa. It's a good squad, right? Out in Oklahoma. So they know how to play some football down there. But UC Davis, they're going to do a lot of things. They're going to run a 3-4. They're going to probably show a lot of exotic looks. Former teammate of mine, Isaiah Davis, is a linebackers coach. I know he's going to have his guys coached up really well. They're going to be disciplined. But say we get the job done, take care of business. We're going to Sac State. Let's say we do well there and take care of business again in consecutive weeks. Well, we're looking at a trip to Philly in Villanova. And Villanova is no slouch, as they just wrapped up the CAA. So when you really take things into consideration, it's a very favorable side of the bracket, favorable matchups, no slight to our competition, but favorable in the sense the road doesn't go through Fargo. There's not the exhaustive regionality that Southern Illinois and South Dakota are going to have to face, right? We're not seeing Missouri State, which is great too. I think just give us a break from the Valley monotony. Because like you said, folks, those of you who weighed in, if there's any, uninspired mentality at all. It can be from playing the same teams over and over again. So we should all, I think, be really encouraged by the draw of the bracket we got. Now we just got to take care of biz.
And Kyle, you reminded me, I am going to have to block Coach Jackson on all platforms now. He follows our stuff, likes our stuff at times. So, what a bummer.
Yeah,
Isaiah. Yeah. Like, well, I'm sorry, Isaiah, if you're watching this, no secrets here. You're going to have to be blocked for a little while. So
I want to talk best man in Jim's wedding. So I don't know. He probably got all the secrets already.
I'm going to talk about this right side of the bracket as long as we're over here.
Do it.
That bottom trio, Southern Illinois, South Dakota. I don't know what's going on with Southern Illinois at this point, but they have not finished the season strong. I believe they've lost 2 of their last 3 or 3 of their last 5, something like that. So I'm not sure what's happening there. I have not paid close enough attention. But they lost again this week in a game that against Youngstown, right? Was it Youngstown?
Crushed against Youngstown. I don't know the dynamics or the details of that one, but Matt, I've been saying it all along. I think a lot of you guys echoed the sentiments. They're on borrowed time.
Oh, yeah.
The ball was bouncing their way so many times. Another great example was the North Dakota game. I believe they were down pretty big to Illinois State, and I don't think Illinois State lived up to any kind of expectations this year. I know they lost a ton of people throughout the course of the past 18 months, but all that being said, Southern Illinois, Matt, you've harped on this a long time. They didn't even have to play North Dakota State or Missouri State. I'm sorry, or South Dakota. They didn't play South Dakota or North Dakota State. So now they're going to have to play both of them if they want to get the job done. And I think that's just that's karma, right?
Yep. Yeah. And that's tough travel for them too, going to USD one week and then up to Fargo the next week potentially. So then on the top side of this bracket, Kennesaw was a team that could have potentially been a seed. So that's a tough draw for Eastern Tennessee. I mean, if Kennesaw gets by Eastern Tennessee, like they're going to give NDSU, in my opinion, I think NDSU comes out of that bottom half, a very physical game. But we all know that if you're going to beat NDSU, you can't be one dimensional. You can't just run the ball. And so that's unfortunate there because NDSU is likely going to make the semifinals fairly unscathed out of that bracket, unless Southern beat them last year, I guess. So who knows? Maybe they find their magic that they lost.
And Nick Baker was a quarterback that was able to execute that victory. And, I think the other thing to think about though is looking at Kennesaw State, a 10-1 team, a lot of people were irritated at how high they were ranked in some of the just standard national polls that came out. But if you look at what the committee did, I got to take the hats off to the committee in a lot of ways here. I really think they got it right. You're not going to seed a team that's 10-1 that's barely beating really, really bottom tier competition. Again, no slight to those kids. They just don't play the same ball. The Missouri Valley, the Big Sky, the CAA does. And Kennesaw State runs a triple option, which is gimmicky and can catch teams off guard if they're more dot back or spread teams too throughout the year, and then have to prepare one full week for the triple option type defense, which is very unique.
Yep. I wanted to pull this comment from Dion. I think not getting seeded was kind of a blessing in disguise. Yes. And Montana is the perfect example of this. You look at Montana on the top right side of the bracket, likely Incarnate Word is hot right now. They're playing good football. But Eastern Washington, I think who won that? Montana beat Eastern Washington earlier in the season, I believe.
Yeah, they did.
But it was a good game. And really, how many shots do you want to give Barrier, at cracking your defense? So that's a tough game there. If they get past there, that top side of the bracket's really interesting because Florida A&M is a SWAC school. So typically they're vying for the Celebration Bowl and not in the FCS playoffs. So this is something kind of new for them. CELA is going to put up some points. But James Madison, is the big bully on the playground that has been here, done that. So again, Montana, man, if they make it all the way to the quarters or whatever, that's a tough draw for them as well. So woofta. What a bracket there. On the top left, then Sam Houston, they should be all right. UT Martin, Missouri State. That's going to be an interesting matchup. Two kind of dynamic offenses there. I think Missouri State likely takes that and then gets sent out to Montana State. So we'll see what Pelini thinks of that. Going out to Montana State, where we know they'll have a good crowd. Any thoughts on this top half of the bracket?
Yeah, I think some percentages came out. Ben shared it in our group thread. Right now, North Dakota State has a pretty overwhelming nod. I don't know if it's bookies or who's generating these percentages, but there's some good analytics that would suggest North Dakota State has the strongest run, with James Madison being the second highest percentage. I want to say at like 30 some percentage. North Dakota State's got 40 some percent likelihood to win it all. James Madison 30 some percent, and then us at 8.5% or something to that degree, and then or 8%, and then Sam Houston is a 7.5% odds to make a run again. So I don't know how to kind of view that or put stock in it, but it makes a lot of sense to me. I would say that North Dakota State, just given the home field advantage, the difficulty playing in the Fargo Dome, has a really good path to the semis, like you said, Matt. James Madison is no slouch, right? They're a little dinged up. They're jumping classifications. Are the underclassmen who are contributing going to be as inspired, because it's completely different now? Like, you always want to win now, but are their sights on something different, the change, all that type of stuff? Sam Houston, they're in the same boat, but they've, in my opinion, not really been tested throughout the course of the year. Frazee put up some really great stuff with respect to James Madison, South Dakota, or James Madison, Sam Houston, North Dakota State, because those were 2-3 top seeds that I believe he foresaw falling in that type of order. So he did wins against playoff teams. He did strength of schedule. He had really good metrics that he shared on Twitter. I would encourage all you guys to go check those out, because Sam Houston fell in the bottom tier, wasn't checking a lot of those boxes. And I think those are key metrics. Wins against teams just even with a winning record. I think James Madison looked to be the most tested team outside of North Dakota State. Obviously, South Dakota State has been heavily tested. I'm really curious to see what happens with that Florida A&M Southeastern game as well. I think the high-powered offense of either of those teams could really press James Madison. It's kind of a tough draw for them. Also, Eastern Washington, UNI in the same bracket with Montana. James Madison, to me, has probably one of the toughest sides.
Yeah, I'd echo that. Some of our fans are wonderful and have pointed out a couple of things. That Eastern Washington did beat Montana earlier this year. So that was correct there. So that's going to be interesting. That UNI defense versus Eastern Washington is going to be something to watch.
Exactly.
I'm very curious about that. Is that how that UNI defensive line pressures Barrier, what they do to get the ball out of his hands quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to have to keep that low scoring, because I don't think UNI
they can't keep pace, really.
Yeah, they can't keep pace. So the defense is going to have to shut down Eastern Washington to some extent there. So.
I don't know what their answer will be for Isaiah Weston. He's a damn good player. Can go off on anybody. So it'll really come down to their quarterback play. Can they get consistent quarterback play in that game? And I don't know how tested Eastern Washington's offensive line is, but probably pretty tested, since they did beat Montana. There is good play in the Midwest, or in the Big Sky. So look for that to be a pretty evenly matched game. If the Brinkman Butcher connection can really get going and get oiled up, look out, it's gonna be a long day in Eastern Washington, which we should note, Matt. I want to celebrate, Justin Sell, our AD, because we got a bid for a home game, and I do not know how UNI didn't outbid or want to outbid Eastern for for a home playoff game. So, kudos to Justin Self for getting that done. There's no guarantees there,
Well, it's just terrible because now we have to watch a game potentially on that god-awful red turf.
I know, right?
Sorry, Brendan. I know you love it.
I like it too. So, but I know
man.
what you mean. It is hard on the eyes. I'm glad you brought this other thing up. Midco, man. You guys, we don't need to see long extended cuts to Chris clapping his hands. We need to be able to see the entire field. And I missed two pivotal plays because they were still running ads. Come on, guys. Get it together. Mid-season form. We need you peaking in November.
Oh, funny. All right. This has been good. Later this week, Ben and Brendan and Chad will spend more time on this, talking bracketology. So for us, we're just going to let it be for now, but appreciate the insights and the comments, feedback. I agree with you, Scott. One of these Montana schools is going to make some noise in the playoffs. I agree. I think they're good teams this year, and they have home field for a couple games, and they're good. So Fink, good points. Schmid did not play against Stephen F. Austin, so that was the game where they rested him. He'd been the recipient of a few targeting penalties, or not called on him, but against him. And Keeler was on record in the press conference just saying they needed to give him some time to recover from some of the hellacious hits he took early in the season. So, and they didn't think they needed him against Stephen F. Austin that week. So, all right, UC Davis. So I'm very at the start of my UC Davis prep. The full prep will be out tomorrow, or the full report will be out tomorrow of what we can expect in the opponent preview. What I've already noticed and paid attention to is we will likely see 3 different quarterbacks for UC Davis throughout the game. They had 2 quarterbacks at the start of the year that they went with, and it looks like there was an injury at one point. And one of the quarterbacks missed 3 games and came back last week against Sac State and just only threw 3 passes. They were all completions. One was for a touchdown, but it was in garbage time. Their quarterback that started the game struggled through 2 interceptions. So it's going to be kind of a mess. That third quarterback that I mentioned, he is just a running quarterback. When he comes into the game, you can expect that that's what he's going to do. His name is Trent Tompkins, number 18. He's only attempted 18 passes this year, but he is their second leading rusher with 436 yards, a 5.7 average, 6 TDs on the ground. The 2 quarterbacks that I mentioned, Hunter Rodriguez is the one that started the year as their starting quarterback, but was hurt against Northern Colorado. 8 touchdowns on the year, 60% completion rate. Miles Hastings, number 7, is the man that stepped in. 62% completion rate, 6 touchdowns, but 6 interceptions. So he's going to put it into play. These quarterbacks are all built about the same, right in that 6 foot, 6'1" range. Lighter weight guys. They don't run the ball exceptionally well. They have their leading rusher again is kind of a smaller scat back, Ulanzo Gilliam Jr., 5'9", 189. So it's an interesting offense that I'm not all the way there yet on learning about them. Their offensive line is not huge. I mean, all the guys are less than 275 pounds, 290 pounds, it looks like. So not a huge offensive line. They're not a valley line. We'll see what that looks like and how that plays out. Kyle, you want to talk a little bit about their 3-4?
Yeah, I can talk about the 3-4. First, I just kind of want to touch on, offensively, I think what I would like to see us try to do, this is really no different than any game, but I'd like to see us possess the ball more than them, because I really think we do really well against the run. And like you're saying, they don't have a huge running game in terms of how they want to make their money. What I think they're going to do is, understand that they may have some opportunities through the air. And so And then they're probably going to leverage the quarterback run game, like you were talking about. One of them that is such a pivotal weapon for any team nowadays is a quarterback run game. And if Isaiah has any input with the staff and the game plan, I would imagine he would probably, just say that they struggle with the quarterback run. Because I mean, we have struggled with the quarterback run and extending the play. Notwithstanding, those hurt us as well, right? So I would like to see us lock that down and really possess the ball with our run game, get Pierre and Isaiah going, and I think then we'll be in the driver's seat to try to dictate the score and the flow of the game. From there, the 3-4, you're gonna see a lot. The good news is Matt and I were talking about in pre-production. You're gonna see a lot of similar things overall that we've seen from your UNDs, some of your Northern Iowa looks in terms of them being multiple with a 3-4 front, right? So for those who don't know, 3 down linemen, you can have two eyes, which just means inside shade of the guard. You could have, they can mix how they want to align to our fronts. That's why for any folks watching, you'll see us move our tight ends. So your Tucker Kraft and your Hines, we'll trade them. That means move them to the other side to see how they're going to line up, right? So what we're trying to do is look for, it's called the bubble in football terminology. So we want to run at the bubble, which gives us an advantage in terms of run lanes, right? So that's what we're looking for from a running perspective, running the ball against the 3-4. In terms of the looks that they're going to try to show us, I would imagine they do a lot of stunting, a lot of twisting in games with their defensive linemen. If they look at the Dixie State film, that kind of got us off some of our spots. We weren't able to get up to second level with our blocking. So I would imagine they do a lot of stuff like that. And then they're going to try to do that so Chris doesn't have time back there, right? Because look at what he's really done lately. He's excelled at is extending the plays.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at what he did in the UND game, Chris really did an excellent job of taking what was there for the most part, with the exception of one play that it kind of – 1 or 2 plays he kind of I think he could have taken maybe some checkdowns, but to his credit, he put a great ball out there to Jaden Yankee. Jaden just didn't pick it up. I don't think he caught it in the air in terms of with his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of those plays is about to hit, but I think you can never go broke taking a profit. So hopefully Chris just continues to lean on his tight ends. Good screen game, back shoulder throws to Jaden or Jackson. I think we're going to eat all day.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. They do have good athletic linebackers, much like we've seen from the UNDs of the world, the Western Illinois of the world. They're similar, right? They're similar bodies, similar makeup. That's what we're going to be able to expect, I think, defensively from UC Davis.
Yeah. Just kind of looking at statistics, and I know this is the Big Sky where they do tend to pass a little more. They're allowing 255 yards per game through the air, 162.9 on the ground. So that's something that's going to be worth watching. I am intrigued. They have a nose tackle named Chubba, who's 347 pounds. So anytime you get a dude like that, I just want to look and see what he's like. He's 6'2", so he's a big boy. So I am excited for that. They're young in the secondary, a lot of freshmen, a lot of redshirt freshmen. It's hard to know what that actually means, if they're true freshmen or if they're in their third year. With COVID and eligibility, every team's kind of showing it a little bit different on their rosters, which is annoying. They forced 13 interceptions though, but again, Big Sky, you are chucking it up a lot. Sacks, they've had 24 sacks. They've only given up 16. So who knows? We'll get into this a little bit more. Ken, this is a good point. Did you pull this up, Ken Brooks here? Logan needs to be the quarterback spy. Shut that option down. Did anyone else notice we were using Tolu as a spy yesterday? That was interesting. It was when we were doing the NASCAR package and Tolu was dropping back. And I don't know. I think it had mixed results. I'd rather see him moving forward.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Matt. I think sometimes you throw things out there for them to have to prepare for on film in a lot of cases like that, and just to show that you have more versatility within that same package. Because when you get an offensive lineman guessing and over-analyzing what they've seen on film, then they can't play fast and physical, right? Similar to a defense, right? Coach Stig hates playing UND because there's so many, what we like to call on the offensive side of the ball, there's so much window dressing, like all the orbit motions, the shifts in the trades, a lot of the stuff that Coach Eck does. And why is that such a pain? Not because anything really comes of it specifically, but it's how you have to align to it, how you have to prepare for it, and then the things you can run off of those looks. So defensively, I know we probably do the same thing. Matt, that's a really key statistic that you pointed out, only giving up 16 sacks on the year. When we can generate a pass rush with our interior defensive linemen, it really pays huge dividends. And people might say, well, duh. But what I mean is it guards some of our deficiencies on the back end in coverage, right? And want to give a shout out to Malik. He stepped up pretty well, but I did notice he was playing with a lot of cushion. So I want them to work on that with Malik. I think Daishawn just needs to get his spirits up a little bit. Daishawn's a hitter, just needs to bring his pad level a little lower. Again, targeting needs to be called consistently because Otis Weah completely dropped his head on one play. So hopefully we can remove the refs' influence completely from this game and the rest of the way through, but we'll see. But just back on target, yeah, I definitely want to see how we can generate a pass rush because we were blitzing so consistently on third down and not getting home. It was really irritating me. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. All right. Let's get into this. Predictions presented by Eric Erickson of Cutler Law Firm. So Eric tailgates right next to me in the backyard. Great guy. He's talked to me through has helped me set up Jackrabbit Illustrated over the years. Just offered some excellent advice. So if you are in need of some legal business consultation, that's what Eric specializes in. Contact Eric Erickson of Cutler Law Firm. His email is just erickson@cutlerlaw. So give a shout out. Just want to give a shout out to him for his support and let him know what needs that you have there. So, all right, predictions then, Kyle. Do you want to give a score prediction first this week? I feel like I always go first.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. Last week I think I got the score. I think I predicted it accurately. I just kind of try to mirror it based off of what defense surrenders. I thought the defense would give up a few fewer points. I'm just running through the score breakdown of all the points that UC Davis has given up. Looks like they give up a fair amount. I'm going to go 28. I'm going to go 28-20 Jacks.
Okay. That's funny. I'm at 31-17 is where I'm at.
Okay.
So we're in the same ballpark.
Yeah. Cole Fromm's been killing it lately, but I don't want to see him on the field outside of kickoffs and PATs. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, there we go.
I do want to give a key player to watch on both sides of the ball. I think Adam Bach's going to have a heck of a game. I know he was my pick last week. He had a very quiet but dominant performance. Again, there were a couple times where he bit, then he bailed, and then he came back to make a play for a tackle for loss with some rally tackling. So Adam Bach defensively. Offensively, I'm going to go with Jackson Yankee. I think given what they give up through the air, given how consistent he's played just throughout the entire year, and we kind of take it for granted, I think he's going to have a heck of a game.
Okay. I always feel bad for picking this one, but I'm going to pick Pierre.
That's good.
I'm going to pick Pierre and Reese Winkleman. And so a couple of things here. I just want to give our listeners making sure that they have all the accurate info when they start filling out their bracket. Hunter Biden's in the house. He says Montana lost to Eastern Washington after their starting quarterback was hurt. And I'd forgot that. So thank you, Hunter, for checking in. Appreciate that.
Hope your art goes well, Hunter. You're quite a talented artist.
All right, Terry with a prediction, 34-17 Jacks. All right, we're all kind of in the same neighborhood here. So awesome. Anything else, Kyle, for the good of the order here?
No, yeah, I think everybody should be really encouraged, right? I mean, it's been harped on for the faithful. 2 different plays, the ball bounces 2 different ways, and then the Jacks are sitting in a completely different scenario. But the reality is we've had All-Americans out at various points throughout the year. We've had targeting calls that impacted the roster that we could roll out to start games. We've lost a pivotal piece to our run game. We've lost now our left tackle, who's week to week, it looks like, and there's never any guarantees once you hit playoff time. So we should all be really encouraged as fans. If you're trying to drum up a good fan base, let's shed the self-deprecation, this team's underachieving, because we have to consider things within context of a whole. I'm on a soapbox here. I understand this. But I couldn't really bring this up because I was driving home. And Coach Stig, he had excellent game management against North Dakota State during the marker game by electing to take the safety, by preparing the guys really well. And, you know, it's a give and take in football. You can't always ride off into the sunset, make all the right calls, put all the players in the best situations all the time, right? So what happened in Vermilion, I think, was a bit of an anomaly. I think we've already gotten the bad taste of that out of our mouths. And now we're not on the Fargo side of the bracket because we need to pay those guys their respect, even though I think we match up really well against them. So really looking forward to this run here. Guys, keep all the Jacks fans up and positive, because, you know, this will be the last run, but this may be the last few times we can cheer for this Jackrabbit squad. So now I'm stepping down off my soapbox. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Hey, there we go. And that's a good transitioning. So I was just happy that, you know, we were able to recognize this group of seniors on Saturday. It's going to be sad seeing some of them go. I've mentioned it just a little bit before that this is the group that I started Jackrabbit Illustrated on. And I was looking back at the very past articles. I'm going to have, once the season's done, I'm going to have it come out. Who are the 5 freshmen to watch, and kind of a breakdown with a comp of each guy. So that's kind of cool. And then, you know, some of the personal stories, like, you know, for those of you that don't know, I used to work at SDSU, was an academic advisor, got to know some of these guys as they came through orientation and in the academic advising sense. You know, and Tolu was one person, just personality wise, that has always stood out to me from that instance. And he was in our room at orientation. You could just feel like what a good spirit he is. And so, yeah, like this class of seniors, I think, is maybe a little extra special for me for those reasons, and just the chance that I've gotten to know them just a little bit through this over the years. So, yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know you had a direct impact with them. That makes it special. And so that's really cool. I look forward to reading those.
Yeah. So we'll see. All right. Yeah. So with that, let's wrap it up. We're at an hour here. So, all right. Go big, go blue, go
Jacks.